All right, everybody, we are live to talk about autism. If you're an autism parent, if you suspect your child may be autistic, if you are autistic or wonder if you are, or if you're a professional working in this field, this is the place for you. We're going to be talking for the next couple of hours about autism. So come on in, be asking your questions. I'm just finishing getting everything set up here. How's everyone doing today? Also, be tapping on that screen as you come in. Please remember to do that if you're just barely coming in. These first few minutes of the live are the most important in how we respond. So be tapping on that screen. And let's talk about autism, you guys. I had a beautiful moment yesterday. I don't know if you guys saw the video. My son has started saying, "I love you." It's a big step, you guys. It's a really big step. If you're new here, I'm an autism dad. Hey, thank you, thank you. I'm an autism dad. I got 2 kids diagnosed with autism. I'm a board-certified behavior analyst. I do ABA therapy, and I run a company that provides services in the state of Utah. We're opening up our 4th clinic now, and it's just a good time. So, all right, everybody. I go live on a daily basis as well. Just so you guys know, we go live every single day to talk about autism, to answer your questions. And the structure of this is once we hit 20,000 likes, which doesn't usually take too long, I go through the autism news of the day. Every single day, we got breaking autism news that we can go through. And so I have some news that I want to share. And then after that, we'll answer more questions. Now, the second half of this is typically me bringing people up and having real conversations with people, either parents wondering about their kids, having questions about their kids, or adults wondering about themselves. Okay, let's go ahead and answer some questions. Have you seen Love on the Spectrum? I've seen the first season, I think it is. I haven't seen the most recent season, but it's a great show. Great show. What age is the hardest? My son is 2.5, and I'm struggling bad. It's a different struggle at each age. I have a 2-year-old, and I have a 4-year-old, and yeah, it can be a lot. It can be a lot. But their autism doesn't go away. It's hard now, but then, they might learn a lot of skills, and it might not be as like, hey, I'm worried that he's going to elope. Maybe that'll go away. But then new problems come, especially with puberty and during transitioning part of life. Okay. A little bit about myself if you're new here. I'm not a doctor. Someone asked if I'm a doctor. I'm not a doctor. So that means don't listen to anything I say, you guys. No, just kidding. I'm an autism dad. I got 2 kids diagnosed with autism. I'm a board-certified behavior analyst, and I do ABA therapy. I've worked with kids with autism for over a decade, and I'm the CEO of a company that supports people with autism in the state of Utah. Burger King or Wendy's? Oh, man. If I'm with my family, Wendy's. If I'm alone, Burger King, because my wife doesn't eat Burger King. So, all right, you guys, let's continue on answering some questions. Can an adult not know if they have autism? Absolutely. So many adults were missed, you guys. There are so many adults walking around. People think that we have an epidemic of autism. No, we have people finally realizing that they've been on the spectrum their entire life, that it wasn't just, no reason why they had 10 times harder time socializing in school, had a harder time making friends, understanding what the social norms were. And so absolutely, there are people who don't know that they're autistic. I recommend take a screener. That can be a good first step. And then you can go on and check to see if you can schedule an evaluation with a psychologist. That's kind of the steps there. Over on the YT platform, I do answer the questions and read those things that come off in the YT platform. I'm not allowed to talk about it. But I will call it the YT platform. It's a lot slower over there, so I do tend to answer more of those questions. Ash says, do you or your company do Zoom calls for those outside of Utah? No, we only support inside of Utah. I'm so sorry. Love to expand, though, maybe someday. ABA is abuse. the ABA has definitely been abusive to people before. You're right. Still a therapy I recommend. Let's see. Any thoughts on the oat test, organic acid test? I'll explain it this way. I've never heard of a circumstance where a pediatrician recommended the oat test. You take the oat test and you feel like you're getting clarity about your kid, and they come back and they give you a long list of things you need to buy. The oat test, they pay you so that they know what to sell to you. And there haven't been significant studies to show that it's addressed autism symptoms. Guys, addressing gut health is important, but you go to a dietitian and a doctor to work through that. You don't go through and have these tests done on your autistic child that you don't have done on your other children. That doesn't make sense. My son's doctor just ordered the test. Hey, if the pediatrician ordered it, do what the doctor says. Do what the doctor says. There may be some other things, but it's not standard for autism. It's not recommended just because your kid has autism that you need to do the oat test. ABA, home-based or center-based? Well, let me tell you a little bit about that. Both are good, but there's pros and cons. Home is convenient, but you do have to stay home, and there does have to be an adult there present. And the technician is alone. And when the technician is alone, you tend to see lower adherence to the treatment plan. And so if you're in the clinic, you do tend to see a little bit more adherence, and it frees up your time that you don't have to be at home with them. However, it's, what's best for the kid? A combination. A clinic is a great place to learn new skills in a really good way and to socialize and then to generalize at home. So that's what we push for, is kind of this hybrid approach. All right, you guys, we are already at 1,600 likes. Just a reminder that as soon as we get to 20,000 likes, I do go through the autism news of the day. I'm curious, where's everyone from? We got 400 people in this live. Where do you live? What state are you in, or what country are you in? Are we all in the United States, or do we have some people globally? Where are you? Let me know. Rhode Island, Washington, Nebraska, California, Bakersfield, California, Nashville, Tennessee, Kentucky, Michigan, California, Iowa, Texas, Orlando, Utah. MG, you're in Utah? I love seeing other people in Utah. Oh, Sweden. We got people all over the place. Washington. Guys, this is something important about autism. If you notice in these lives, we got people from everywhere. And it's because autism occurs in all countries, in all cultures, in all spaces. Okay. Can you see the future? I can't. No. What are my credentials? Okay, so I said this before, but we were just starting. We have some more people on here. I apologize for the repetition for those of you on here, but we do have some more people on here. I am not a doctor. I'm a board-certified behavior analyst, so I work with people with autism. I've been working with people with disabilities for over a decade. I am the CEO of a company that provides services to people in the state of Utah. But really, why do I do these lives? Well, I'm an autism dad. I am the biggest advocate for autism you will ever meet. I want to do everything within my power to make sure that my children have the support, the accommodations, and the acceptance that they need. My kids don't need a cure. Your kids don't need a cure. There is no cure. That's not a thing, because autism is not a disease. Your child's brain, or your brain, developed differently. And you deserve love and acceptance exactly how you are. That is why I do these lives. Okay, let's see here. What other questions do we have, you guys? Oh, over on the YT platform, I do tend to answer more questions over there. What are some tips to help an autistic teenage girl who has anxiety and OCD for traveling to places that are loud or lots of people? Yeah. Okay, so if you got a teenager and if they're conversational and they're showing a lot of signs of anxiety and OCD, I do recommend mental health therapy. That's like having a therapist that you can talk to. And I know that a lot of times we don't really think about that for our own kids, and we don't feel like they need it, but it has been shown to really be able to reduce anxiety and OCD and the struggles with that, to be able to go through therapy. I will also say that you need to look at how do you help her live in a world that feels so loud and overwhelming to her. For transitions, I usually recommend break down exactly what you're going to do. If you are traveling, if you're going somewhere specific, that brings in a lot of new environments, a lot of new contingencies that she's not prepared for. And the more that you can prep her for what that is going to happen in advance, the better that she'll be able to respond to it. Okay, have lots of friends and fit in. I don't feel close with anyone though. Never myself, always changing to fit in. Should I get tested? I feel happy, but I don't feel like I fit in. You guys, if you are wondering if you are autistic, the number one thing that you can do first is go and take the RADS 14 test. It's linked in my bio. It's a validated study. It's a shortened version of the RADS-R. And then if you want to, you can do the RADS-R as well, but that's 80 questions, which it can take a little bit longer. And but again, these screeners don't diagnose autism, but it can tell you, hey, look, you're showing autistic traits to the point that it is clinically significant for you to go and get evaluated. That's what I recommend that you do. We've got a level 3 nonverbal autistic 4-year-old. We are from Missouri. Leslie, welcome in. Thank you so much for being here. Do we got people here that are here for the first time? Anyone here seeing me for the first time or joining the live for the first time? If I came across your For You page today and you're new here, put FYP in the chat. Put FYP so I can see that you're new. Put FYP in the chat so I can know that you're new. Look at all these people, you guys. We got a lot of good new people here. Well, just know I go live on a daily basis. And if it still says follow right there, that means that if you get disconnected, you won't be able to come back and find me. Make sure you hit follow so you can see me. I do go live on a daily basis. You can come back and learn about autism. She has a therapist, but she hates traveling or crowds. We also have sound dampening headphones for her. Thanks for the communication tip. It will give her more of a detailed list of what's going on. Yeah, people quite often explain autism, especially teenagers I've heard explain autism, that it feels like they're performing a play, changing who they are, playing a character, but they don't have the script. And everyone else seems to have a script of what they're supposed to be doing in social settings, but they don't have that script. So the more that we can step in and give them the script of what's going to be happening, what are some things that you can be doing or saying in those circumstances, working through that with them, it can go a long ways. Is it ethically correct to use stimming as a reinforcer? Well, here's the problem. If you're using stimming as a reinforcer, that means you're withholding stimming unless they engage in the behavior. And so it's not that stimming is unethical. It would be that if you're withholding someone being allowed to stim unless they do something, that is a problem. We need to be stimming just because it is regulating for a person who's autistic. Not something they should have to earn. Let them stim. Right, Leslie? I'm right there with you. How do you feel about ABA therapy? I love it. I think there's a lot of people that have been hurt by it, especially adults now that were getting the early stages of ABA. And not that it didn't change behavior, because ABA changes behavior. That is without a doubt. No one is questioning whether or not you can change behavior or teach skills using ABA. That's not in question. What's in question is, what is the harm that it does? And should you actually be changing that behavior? And what's happened with ABA in the past is that people, and even I was trained like this very early on, that you should try to help the autistic child become more neurotypical. You need to address things like stimming and eye contact. You need to overly focus on compliance. And doing those things, they should not have focused on that, and it caused real damage. And if there's behavior analysts still today addressing behaviors that shouldn't be addressed, that's a problem. But it is very effective. Very effective. Okay. Jordan says, is it fine to forego a formal diagnosis as an adult if you and your psych are pretty sure? If you feel like you have been validated and you are okay with that, that's fine. But you should be aware that may prevent you from receiving the adequate accommodations and resources that you may need. Because remember, autism isn't diagnosed by a professional just saying, I think it could be, or I think it is, and you saying, yeah, I think it is. The autism diagnosis has a very rigid protocol for diagnosing. So you can't call yourself autistic unless you have that formal evaluation. you can say, I think I'm autistic. But if you really want that answer, you go and you schedule an evaluation. Sorry, I don't agree. My son has been in ABA for 9 years and has made wonderful progress. Are you disagreeing with me? I love ABA. I recommend ABA for everybody. Not for everybody, but it is, widely recommended. You can acknowledge that ABA did hurt some people, not because it wasn't effective, but because it changed behavior that it shouldn't have helped. Let's see here. Do children with mild autism get better with time? So mild autism, it's not really called mild autism. It's level 1 is probably what you're referring to, and it generally refers to low support needs across domains of autism. And that means that they may not need support with some things and some with other. What's interesting though is quite often you see with level 1 that like puberty ends up being really rough with level 1. The more that social pressures, as social norms start changing in the teenage years, that can be really hard for people who are on the spectrum with lower support needs. And so now there are some things like there's some it's been documented that people tend to grow out of some stimming. That doesn't mean it totally goes away, and it wasn't a bad thing to begin with. And behavior may change naturally. That's maturation. But that is something that we tend to see. Puberty can be rough. My 4-year-old has not been diagnosed with autism, but he does stim a lot when bored. Is that normal? So stimming alone does not diagnose autism, and all kids stim, and that's okay. So it's not a bad thing. What I recommend, Vic, take the MChat. It's linked in my bio. It's totally free. And you're able to see if your child's high risk. There's a lot more. Like does your child respond to their name? Do they point at things? Do they look at you? Or do they look where you point? Do they climb on things? Are they do they have special interests or fixate on things that are abnormal? Like, my son fixates on toothbrushes, right? And always goes to find the toothbrushes. Constantly coughing or blinking, is that stimming? Yeah, it can be. Yes, those can be stims. Now, obviously coughing, if they're genuinely, they could have a medical concern there, so I can't say it is. But yeah, there can be sensory input going on with coughing and with blinking. Yeah, that can be stimming. Okay, those asking what stimming is, and I hear people sometimes say stem, like the stem of a plant or something, but it's more of stim, like stimulate. And so it is when a person engages in stimulatory behavior, like flapping your hands or repetitive behaviors. So flapping your hands, spinning in a circle, things that they do just because it feels good to do. And people with autism tend to do that a lot. They do have some sensory differences in how their body processes sensory and their sensory needs. And stimming can be a form of regulating that. And so you don't make an autistic kid stop stimming. And it's not a concern if other people stim. It doesn't mean you're autistic, but it is one thing that can contribute to that can be a trait of autism. It's the vax. What's the vax? Stimming is a vax? I don't know what you're talking about, straight. What's the vax? What you talking about? Okay, over on the YT platform. Oh, have lots of friends and fit in. Yeah. Should I get tested? I feel happy, but I don't feel like I fit in. Should specify for my previous message, I'm aware that there's stigma on autism, and if I get tested, then I don't know if I may lower my function, if true, may lower my quality of life overall. I'm aware this is a stereotype, but I find that I can model the expansion of the universe in my head with ease. I also have a 12 million score on a puzzle game. Also have random obsessions with specific foods and words that just feel right. Yeah, Celeste, thank you for sharing all of that input. It sounds like you're worried. I want you to know that autism is not an intellectual disability. It sounds like there's a lot of ways that you are extremely intelligent, and the way your brain works is incredible. And by default, autism is not an intellectual disability. It doesn't mean the IQ is going to be lower. It doesn't mean anything like that. It's a difference in how the brain processes information, sure, and processes sensory needs, sure, but it's not an intellectual disability. However, there is a likelihood that an increased likelihood of an intellectual disability. Okay, we do have another comment over here. What are some green and red flags for ABA? Let's talk about that. You guys, if your child is in ABA therapy, put ABA in the chat. I want to know, is this impacting a lot of people? Do we have a lot of people who are autistic or who are in ABA therapy? Also, while I go through this, we are at 11,000 likes. As soon as we get to 20,000 likes, I am able to go through the autism news of the day. Okay, we do have a lot of people who are in ABA therapy. So ABA therapy is a therapy that focuses on skill building. It is one of the therapies that is often recommended for kids who are autistic. And the therapy itself is based in behavioral principles like reinforcement. And is able to teach skills in an incredible way. And so they can focus on skill building, behavior reduction, problem behavior reduction, communication, things like that. And it's not the only therapy that we recommend. Speech therapists, they are the real experts on speech and a lot of communication. They're amazing to consult with and have on your team. Occupational therapists are great. They do some skill building, but they also specialize in sensory needs. But ABA therapy is oftentimes the most intensive service that insurance may pay for up to 30 hours a week. And my recommendation to families when I talk about ABA therapy, one of my number one recommendations is try to get as much in person from the clinician as possible. So the structure of ABA is, yes, it's 30 hours a week, but it's not the master's degree level clinician going in for 30 hours a week. They hire technicians who are typically high school graduates that can go in and work with your child. And so these technicians tend to come and go. They don't have a lot of training. They're just barely learning. And they're amazing. We love our behavior technicians. But what really matters is the clinician, the board certified behavior analyst. How often are they there training the technician? There's companies out there that only have remote BCBAs, only have remote clinicians. And I don't like that therapy very much. I don't like it when the technician isn't able to see how to do the things. And so that's my recommendation. Find out, is the board certified behavior analyst in person? Are they able to support and be there and train the RBT? Okay, what are some tips for unmasking? Because I'm horrible with masking most of the time. Typhon, that is a good question. So when an adult gets diagnosed with autism, let me put you in some perspective. They take a look back at their life and they say, you know what? I was doing all of these things not because that's what I actually wanted to do, not because that's what made me comfortable and happy. In fact, it caused me pain to do, but I don't know who I am if I don't do it. And so there becomes this process of discovering themselves again, of finding out who really am I without this mask on. And that can be a hard process. The first thing is, it's not a different person. That's still you. That was just you trying to do more than you needed to. And so if it shouldn't feel too effortful and you can move slowly. Just think of it like this. Like, don't do something. If you're doing something and you're doing it just because other people are putting pressure on you, or you sense a societal pressure that may or may not exist, think twice and be okay doing it. Be comfortable wearing those headphones as you're walking through the busy cafeteria in your dorm. Be okay with flapping your hands for a moment if your body tells you that it feels good. And don't feel like you have to change everything all at once. Okay. Oh my goodness, I definitely need this. My 1-year-old just got diagnosed 3 weeks ago. Holy cow. Wow. That is so cool. Okay, so a lot of people, they have they They just got diagnosed. And as this is happening to Miss Cookie, I want you all to put yourself in her shoes, that it can be so overwhelming. Miss Cookie, let me say this to you. Right now, society is putting so much on you. The moment you know your child's autistic, there are about 1,000 things that you are supposed to be doing for your child that society tells you that you need to be doing. And my biggest recommendation to you is to slow down. Give yourself time to breathe, time to mourn, time to be sad about a diagnosis. That's okay. I cried when my son was diagnosed because I didn't know what this means for his future. And I still have moments where I stress out because I don't know what his life is going to look like down the road. It's hard. Give yourself time to go through that process. And then I have some basic steps, you guys. I actually have an ebook. It's 100% free. I don't sell anything, you guys. I'm just here trying to give out some good info that I've learned. And I am extremely protective over autism parents because I see the amount of marketing that goes on to try to get you to do things that are not evidence-based. There are so many influencers on here trying to get you to immediately change your child's diet, trying to get you to immediately detox and take all these other tests. And it can feel like there are a million things that I have to do. And so I break all of that down into 5 steps. If you're an autism parent, there's 5 things I want you to do. And I'll tell it to you right now without you even going and downloading it. But yeah, you can go download that. First, you need to build a village. Yes, the first thing to do if your child's autistic isn't to help your child. It is to help you as the parent. You are going to need help through this process. You are not going to be able to do this alone. And you may say, I don't have anybody. I don't have family. I don't have a spouse. I have nobody. And I got to tell you, that's exactly why you need to build a village, because you don't have one. You don't have anybody, and you're going to need a person. That doesn't mean that doesn't mean that like I am discounting how hard this is going to be for you, but I want you to know that there are communities out there. There's people that are feeling the exact same way as you, and you can get together with that person and become each other's village. You can join local Facebook groups that have meetups for autism parents and get to know people. You can get to know your neighbors. You can go serve them. You can go make them cookies. Make sure they know who you are. Build a village. That's first. You're going to need it. Number 2, get clarity. That means get your diagnosis. So if you already have your child's diagnosis, proceed to step 3, which is to build your child's care team. Don't go and try to find all these hidden solutions. There's no hidden solutions. If you're getting your medical advice from a guy on TikTok like me and trying to get you to buy stuff saying change your entire life and do it only this way, that's a huge red flag. Your doctor and the experts around autism know best. And your care team, I like to look at it this way. You have now been promoted to a care team manager, where if you've been a manager before, you know this does not mean managers are the best at everything. What a manager does, they find the best people to get the results done. And so you need to consider a pediatrician who knows about autism. You need to consider ABA therapy, occupational therapy. You need to consider, speech therapy and mental health therapy. And if you can do all of those, or identify which ones you need, then you bring those experts into your life. And they know more than you do. A lot of them know more than I do. And I bring them in, and I expect them to be the experts for my child. They are the resource of, is my child ready to potty train? Can we go? My child has been hitting people. How do I get him to stop? And you build the services that your child needs, and it gives you the support that you need. So that's step 3, build your care team. Part 4 is where a lot of people jump to part 4 instead of starting at 1. And I want to urge caution to get this. Part 4 is learn everything you can about autism. Yeah, that's important. But your child needs real care first. So that's why we build your care team first. But step 4, learn and advocate for autism. Learn all that you can about it. Learn how to support them. Learn from the experts and be that resource for your child. And number 5 is plan for the future. And so I cut out all the nonsense. I am not a fan. You guys can put it in the chat of all the different treatments for autism that you want to be doing. But really, none of those really fit into this as default unless there's something absurdly unique about your child that needs something different. Okay. Over here on the YT platform, my son has started having constipation problems again. He hasn't had this problem in years. I don't understand how it's happening again. Okay, so autistic people do tend to have more GI related issues. Now, a lot of people hear that and they say, oh, gut-brain axis. You always know that it was the gut causing the autism. It's the toxins in the brain coming out of the leaky gut. And I got to tell you, this is an old theory, not researched sufficiently to even impact your decision here. But what we do know is that tummy problems are a real big deal for our kids. And if they're constipated, they're not going to be happy. That doesn't mean go do detox. That means you go and you talk to your doctor about how do you modify the diet, how do you treat the constipation. You might need to do some Miralax or something according to your pediatrician's recommendations. Saz says the vaccines roll out exactly correlate with autism. What do you mean by that? I don't understand what you're trying to say. We've had autism for a very, very, very long time. And it exists in people who are not vaccinated equally to people who are vaccinated. So I'm not understanding what you're trying to get at there. The research just does not support what you're saying. All right, you guys. We're at 15,000 likes. As soon as we get to 20,000, I can go through the autism news of the day. Yeah, we're right. Look, guys, correlation does not equal causation. However, there's not even a correlation that vaccines cause autism. I know that sounds controversial here, but correlation is a degree of scientific understanding. Okay? You can have an established correlation of two variables that whenever A happens, B also happens. What we do have are anecdotes that when it happened to them, they noticed something in their child. But then when you look for the correlation and you look at all the kids at a mass scale, there's no correlation between vaccines and autism. Now, if there was, then we'd have to dig in deeper and say, okay, what is it? Is there something in the vaccines? Is there a causal relationship? But there's not even a correlation between vaccines and autism. I'm making people mad already about that. Making people mad. I know nothing. Okay. Is it true 1 out of 12 boys are born with it? Last that I read, it was 1 in 20 boys and 1 in 70 girls. But maybe there's an updated statistic that I haven't seen. But that was last that I saw. You must be a liberal. What are you talking about, Jeremy? What are we talking about here? That's a conspiracy theory, which Dr. Wakefield lost his license for, which, if you ask me, was a cover-up. I'm not sure what you're saying there. What causes autism? Okay, I'm seeing a lot of questions about what does cause autism then. If I'm saying there's no correlation between vaccines and autism, and I know that comment made a lot of people upset, but there's not a correlation between vaccines and autism. One more thing I'll say about that is if you have a child who regressed, I know how you feel. My daughter went through that. At 14 months, she stopped responding to her name. She lost a lot of communication that she had developed, and it's terrifying. But there have been a lot of studies about regressions. Not all kids with autism regress, but there have been a lot of studies that regression happens a lot in autism because one leading theory is that the way the brain prunes information, the same way that it doesn't prune enough information, making all the sensory input so loud, sometimes the autistic brain prunes irrelevant or too much things to where skill deficits can occur or, the regression can occur. And so that is a very, very strong theory about this. But I don't want to minimize this experience. Like, I'm not mad at parents who say, hey, they got the shot the next day, they had autism. I've talked to a couple people like that. And usually when I dig in, it's like, oh yeah, they had a fever. And then once they came out of the fever, we started to notice the regression. But when you look at the actual studies about regression, they indicate that the vast majority of kids before the regression showed neurodivergent signs. So it's not the vaccines. But what does cause it then, and how do we know? Well, we do know that autism is largely genetic. We know that it's 80 to 90% genetic and 10 to 20% environmental factors during pregnancy. I don't have any examples of documented environmental factors that impact autism after a child is born. How do we know it's genetic though? How can I just say it's 80 to 90% genetic? I know I say that, and a lot of people in there are like, "Oh, you can't say that. You know nothing. You were so dumb." I've seen some of those comments. But let me kind of share though how we know. Twins. Now hear me out. If you are convinced that it is vaccines and totally vaccines, I want you to hear some of this research, okay? Twin studies are fascinating with autism. Do you guys know how much DNA do identical twins share? Put it in the chat. How much DNA do identical twins share? Put it in the chat. Do you guys know this? If they're identical twins, they share nearly 100%. Now, you have to say nearly. It's like 99.999 or something because some genes slightly play out differently. But essentially 100%. And with autism, this is fascinating, you guys. With autism, if they are identical twins, then almost always, if one is autistic, the other is also autistic. So fraternal twins, if it was just the environment, if it was just vaccines and siblings are taken care of similarly, then you would expect identical twins and fraternal twins to play out the same way if DNA doesn't have anything to do with it. But fraternal twins, how much DNA do fraternal twins share? Do you guys know? How much DNA do fraternal twins share? Let's see if people know in the chat. Yeah, around 50%. Around 50%, just like a sibling. And so what goes from like 80 to 90% co-occurrence, that plummets in siblings and fraternal twins to only about 20%. Only about 20%. And so even when they're carried in the same womb, exposed to all the same environmental factors, getting vaccinated at the same times, and they're twins, it's only about 20% of the time. If one is autistic, the other also is. But identical twins, it is way higher. It's almost all the time. That is powerful, guys. That is a powerful example of how we know that autism is largely genetic. We made it to 20,000 likes. Thank you for the reminder in here. It is time for the autism news of the day. Okay, so on a daily basis, I go through some autism news. First, let me introduce myself. And while I do that, I want to know, who do we have in here? Put 1 in the chat if you're an autism parent or suspect your child's autistic. Put 2 in the chat if you are autistic or suspect you're autistic. Put 3 in the chat if you're just here to learn. Or maybe you're a professional. 1 if you are an autism parent. 2 if you're autistic. 3 if you're just here to learn. Put it in the chat. Let me see who all is here. Amazing. We got some great people, you guys. Okay, we got some of everyone. Thank you all. Oh, a BCBA. We got some BCBAs in here. I love that. I'm a BCBA as well. So who am I? Well, I'm an autism dad. I got 2 kids diagnosed with autism. My 4-year-old was diagnosed a couple of years ago, 1.5 years ago, and then my almost 2-year-old, she just got diagnosed a month or 2 ago, and I never thought I'd be an autism dad, you guys. I really didn't. I had already dedicated my life to autism, you guys. Since 2013, I've been working with people with autism. I'm a board-certified behavior analyst. My entire career was about autism. I developed ABA Wizard. If you're a BCBA, you've probably heard of that. You probably used my products. 80% of BCBAs around the world used my tool to become board certified. And I had actually retired about 3 years ago. And then I just decided I needed to start a company because people with autism needed more help. And so I put everything I have into this, and I've now run a company that serves people with autism in the state of Utah. We're opening our 4th clinic. But when my kids got diagnosed, something switched in me, you guys. It went from something that I just dedicated professionally to every waking moment I think about autism. I learn about autism. I advocate for people who are autistic. And I come on these lives to build this village and to meet you guys and to talk to you guys about autism. I go live every single day. And so if you are new here and it still says follow, please make sure that you hit that follow button so that you can see when I go live. Let's go through the autism news of the day. The autism news of the day is from Science Daily, and this was published yesterday, and it's about brains. It's about brains and about donating brains to science. Okay, how do you think that they do research on the autistic brain? Well, they have to actually have autistic brains to research. And so this isn't something that you can just do a brain scan. But for things like, I know some of the research has come out about pruning, of like really identifying those synaptic connections, that they've identified differences in the autistic brain and neurotypical brains. And there's an article out here that I just read today that was fascinating, talking about how, let's see, 92% of people believe that we need more research in autism and the autistic brain. 92%. Now, I don't know what those 8% of people are saying. we definitely, that should be higher. That should be 100%. However, the vast majority of people think that they get their brains and their bodies from organ donations. You know, on the back of your driver's license, it says if you're an organ donor. Well, what you don't know, and what this article made me aware of, is that that does not include the brain donating it to science. And whether you're autistic or not, there are options to be able to go out there and donate where they take care of everything. It doesn't ruin the ability for a closed or an open casket. And you are able to donate your brain so it can be used for science if you are autistic or not, and it can move the research forward. They're in a huge shortage. Very cool, you guys. I don't know. I recommend you guys to look into this. The one that I see in this article that you can look into is the Autism Brain Net. Autism Brain Net. Check it out, you guys. Autism Brain Net. Okay, I'm a little bit behind on reading some comments. Let me go ahead and answer some questions here. Bee possums. Okay, I just saw a comment that says my brain will overwhelm them. Yeah, guys, if you're worried that your brain might overwhelm them, maybe don't donate it to science. But maybe that's even more argument that you should. I don't know. That is good. Okay, here's another question. Is ADHD and autism the same? Okay, let me ask you guys this. If you or your child, there were a lot of people who said that they have autistic kids, a lot of people here who said they are autistic. So do you or your child have ADHD? AUDHD. That is autism and ADHD both. Put ADHD in the chat if that describes you or your child. ADHD. People are asking about the difference between autism and ADHD. Let me break down a little bit what that means. What are these? What is autism? What is ADHD? Okay, a lot of people on here saying that. Look, you guys, this combination of autism and ADHD is a brutal combination. Like, you have no idea. Now, I'm not autistic and I'm not diagnosed ADHD. As far as I know, to either of those. I've taken the screeners though, because I've questioned. I've questioned. But it is a brutal combination. Now, what's wild though is 50% of autistic people are also diagnosed with ADHD. 10% of people who have ADHD are diagnosed autistic. So this co-occurrence is strong. When someone has one, they likely have the other. That doesn't mean they're on the same spectrum, though. In fact, it used to be that if you were diagnosed with autism, up until 2013, if you were diagnosed with autism, you actually couldn't have an ADHD diagnosis. They said that was already explained by autism. It's just lumped into autism. But upon further research, they separated it out. So people who thought ADHD and autism were the same, that the science has moved on from that to separate those diagnoses out. And the reason it's so brutal to have both is because autism and ADHD both demand opposing things. And you only think about this or realize this if it applies to you. But like, think of if you have someone who's autistic and you know someone who's autistic, think of what their brain craves. Their brain craves stability and routine and sameness and a calm sensory input. And what does an ADHD brain crave? Novelty and change and doing the thing that can bring you immediate satisfaction, even if it's outside of your comfort zone. And so ADHD and autism, these things fight against each other. And so if you have one and you have the other, no matter what you do, there's part of you that is dysregulated. No matter what you do. And so I got to tell you, ADHD is a brutal thing. It really is. I have so much empathy towards this. Yeah. So what do you do? Well, I tell you, autism, there's no recommended diet. There's no recommended supplement. There's no recommended medication simply because you're autistic. ADHD and some of the behaviors and symptoms of ADHD are very treatable with medication and therapy. So if you're ADHD, I guess my big recommendation is consult with your doctor. Don't rule out medication by default. And please don't judge other parents or other people for using medication when they're dealing with this. And I hope this built an extra level of empathy for that you can have towards them. That if you can have something that quiets half that part of the brain, then maybe they just have to do a little bit to regulate the rest. Not everything. What are your opinions on self-diagnoses? Okay, so there's not enough psychologists out there to diagnose everybody. But also, there are a lot of people that say they're autistic, but it's just self-diagnosed. I urge caution on self-diagnosing. What I recommend is you take a screener. And if you score high on a screener that indicates a likelihood of autism, you can say, I suspect I'm autistic. But then you can't say you're diagnosed with autism. You can't say that you're autistic because it's not something that you can be just a little bit of. You know what I mean? Like, you can't just be a little autistic. And so, yeah, I have some of these traits. I'm going to call myself autistic. No, you can't be a little autistic. That's like saying you're a little bit pregnant. Are you a little bit pregnant? No, either you're pregnant or you're not pregnant. And so, yeah, you can suspect that you're autistic, but you go and you get that test and you can determine if your traits that you show and that you live with every day meets the criteria for autism or something else. These evaluations, remember, we are not trying to get diagnosed with autism. If you're going into an evaluation and your goal is an autism diagnosis, you've missed the whole point. Don't do that. Because if you don't get diagnosed, you're going to be upset. Guys, what you're trying to do is you're trying to get clarity. And if it's not autism, your experience is valid. And what you're going through is valid. And the psychologist can help you understand what that is that you're going through, whether it's autism or not. Is ADHD genetic? Yes. Yes, it is. But I'm not, like, I talk mostly about autism. I know a bit about ADHD just because of how commonly they co-occur, but yeah. Do you recommend a second opinion if the first evaluation had lots of discrepancies? Yeah. You don't need to seek a second opinion simply because they didn't give you an autism diagnosis. But if you have concerns with how they did it, or maybe you thought of things that didn't apply the first time, yeah, you can go and get a second diagnosis for sure. Okay, over on the YT platform, I have a question about my 3-year-old autistic son. The other day, he hit me, spit in my face, and threw my phone at me. I don't know how to handle this. I try to be gentle and safe hands, but it isn't working. Oh, Heather Knight, I'm sorry. And the world would tell you, society would tell you that you're being a bad parent because you maintained calmness. They would say you didn't discipline your child hard enough. You failed to spank him. You failed him. And I want to tell you that the number one thing you can do in those moments is to be the calm adult in the room. And people don't learn new skills when they're agitated. It is really hard to learn something new when you're upset. And so I'm facing something similar with my son, who's almost 4. He has been hitting people quite a bit. And what you need to do is what's called a functional assessment. That's my recommendation, a functional assessment. If you're in ABA therapy, you can ask the behavior analyst to do this. But really what we need to know is this a sensory need that's unmet? If so, an occupational therapist could help a lot. Is this a communication deficit that your child can't speak? And they want something or they want to get out of doing something? Well, then the BCBA and a speech therapist can work together on working on communication. I will give you guys hope by saying this. As communication increases, problem behavior decreases. You're not failing your child if you feel like you did not discipline them hard enough. You fail your child if you were not their safe space to be so they can regulate. Now you can set boundaries. You should tell your child no. You should have consequences. But the best approach is always naturalistic things, right? It's not natural to hit your child. But you know, if he throws the phone, then you better believe I'm not giving it back to him, right? If you're safe with the phone, you get to hold the phone. If you're not safe with the phone, you don't get it. And just because your child doesn't sit down on his knees and beg you for forgiveness doesn't mean that they're not learning. And so it's more about these natural consequences that naturally occur as a result of the behavior, you maintaining calm, and then focusing on what skill can I teach him to improve. Oh, Heather, yes, that's what my family says. I'm too patient and I don't discipline correctly. It happened when I put him in the stroller and he didn't want to be in it. I told him everything that was happening before I put him in, but he still didn't want to walk home. Look, your child, oh my gosh, yeah. It is not your fault. Hold on, my headphones just came unplugged. It is not your fault that your child, this is not a lack of disciplining. This is your child not being able to regulate their own emotions. And it's a skill deficit that we need to work on. We can increase these skills. Okay, all right. Oh, Clara says, well said. The word discipline comes from the Greek word that means teach. Yes, this is about teaching your kid, and these like natural consequences and these boundaries are okay. But then the moment it gets to, physical harm to your child, I don't recommend that. And I don't see that working long term, and I can see that doing real damage, especially to children who are on the spectrum. Oh, interesting. Kelly says, hey, I talked to my son's teacher about him having pathological demand avoidance, PDA profile. And she said she 100% believes he has it. And we are going to be adding it to his IEP. Thank you for talking about this. Kelly, oh my goodness. Yes, Lexi, I did the autism news of the day. And someone else reminded me. It wasn't you, but I still had to have someone remind me. Lexi, thank you and welcome. Thank you for being here. Guys, Kelly, this is amazing. I'm so glad that someone... was able to take something out from what I said and be able to apply it to their IEP. That's amazing. Makes me want to touch on PDA again. In the chat, have you heard of PDA? If you have not heard of PDA, pathological demand avoidance, put PDA in the chat if you want me to talk about it. PDA. I'm happy to talk more about it if we have a group of people curious about it. But I love that you were able to get that added into the IEP. Okay, yes, we do have quite a few people on here who are curious about PDA. Let's for sure talk about that. Okay, so PDA refers to pathological demand avoidance. Now, PDA is a profile of autism. And in the United States, it is not an official diagnosis found in the DSM. Now, in other countries, it is. But it's a very real thing, and I would be so blown away if it doesn't end up being in the next version of the DSM. So, public displays of affection, yeah, different than public displays of affection. PDA with regards to autism refers to pathological demand avoidance, and it's mostly associated with people who are low support needs, or typically diagnosed level 1 on the spectrum. And what this means is that any demand that is placed on that person causes a very strong, powerful physiological reaction to that person. Think of the fight or flight response being ignited every single time this person's autonomy or their own individual choices is threatened. For example, if you told your child, "Hey, it's time to go get your shoes on. Go get your shoes on so we can go to school." And your child immediately reacts as though you just asked him to do the most insane thing ever. He might have PDA. It's as if you just told him to go put his hand on a hot stove. Of course he wouldn't do it. That's a dangerous thing. And what's interesting is it's not about the task itself quite often. It's not that, he's opposed to putting his shoes on. It's that you telling him to put his shoes on took away his choice, took away his autonomy as a human being. And the people who have a PDA profile under autism, this is a very powerful thing that isn't just like, oh, we need to just like push through it and get through some tough extinction bursts and then he'll be okay. No, it is a very deeply rooted thing that they need support with. Some of the ways that you might support them is giving them their autonomy back. Instead of saying, "Hey, go get your shoes on, it's time to go," you say, "Hey, we're going to need to go in the next 5 minutes. Do you want to put your shoes on right now or do you want to wait 5 minutes? Oh, you want to wait 5 minutes? All right, here's a timer. Can you push start on that? All right, great." Now it puts it, they just did that. They started the timer. They chose when that they wanted to do it, but it was a forced choice. They might not have seen it as a forced choice, but they are still going to complete that task. They're still going to do the thing, but it's on their own terms. Now, not only is this just making it so that they can not be reactive to a request, but it builds self-management skills. So, yeah. All right, you guys. Every 15, 20 minutes, I do try to do a little introduction for all the new people coming in. While I do, I am curious, who here is seeing me for the first time? If you have never seen me before, and I just came across your For You page today, put FYP in the chat. I want to see if I came across your For You page today for the first time. I like to see who the new people are. Oh, I see some new people coming in. All right. Yes, thank you all for being here. And what you don't know is, by being here, you are now officially part of this village. You're one of us now, whether you like it or not. I'll start bringing people up pretty soon. You'll get to know some of the village here pretty well, but you're part of this village now, okay? The Autism Village here, where we care about autism rights, where we care about autism parents, and where we want, autistic people to be loved and accepted and supported. That is what we're doing. So a little bit about myself. I'm an autism dad. I got 2 kids diagnosed with autism. I'm a board-certified behavior analyst, so I do ABA therapy. And I've been doing that for a long time. Holy cow, Lorraine! You didn't have to do that, but it means a lot. Thank you so much for the hat and mustache. That does tell TikTok to keep sending it out to more people, so I do appreciate that support. All right. I'm also a CEO, so I run a company that supports people with autism throughout the state of Utah. We're opening up our 4th autism clinic right now. And so I was long invested in autism, and that was my profession. That was my world before my son was diagnosed a year and a half ago. And now I didn't think I had more in me to give to the autism community, but I got to say, the moment my own children were diagnosed, that flipped a switch in me. I am nonstop learning everything I can, doing everything I can, trying to change the world, you guys, and all of you are part of this. But I also recognize, being an autism dad, this is hard. I'm going to be vulnerable here. I had a breakdown a couple nights ago. Can I be vulnerable with you guys? Y'all are going to leave after I start talking about this, because it's a little bit vulnerable, and you're not going to see me as an alpha man anymore. I know y'all saw me that way at first, but it's going to take that perception away. I had a panic attack 2 nights ago, and this is new for me. The past 6 months, there's been a lot of stress, and sometimes I have these panic attacks. And I had a bad moment of, thinking of the future of my son, and am I doing enough as a dad? Is my family going to be okay? Mr. Parsons, I hope you know I use that in jest. I definitely do not subscribe to alpha male terminology. But I sat down and I was having a hard time, and then one of you guys, one of my village, sent me a direct message at my lowest point. Let me read some of what that said. Hopefully this is okay. I don't embarrass this person, but see if I can find it. At my lowest point, I mean, I'm down there. I'm crying, hands on my head, door locked on the bathroom. Just trying to think. I got to get out here in a minute, but I'm having a hard time right now. And let me find what she said. I love your daily lives. I get lost when I can't attend. I usually try not to schedule stuff during your time so I can be there. You truly make my life as an autism mom better. And I appreciate you and your wife for that. You all are amazing people. Don't let the haters get you down. You got this and you make a difference. Now, I don't know why she decided to send that right then. A message just full of love and care. But, I mean, it had an impact on me. This village, you guys, saying just kind words to someone else, pulled me through. It got me through it. I was able to come out, and I just, look, it means the world to me when people say kind things, and it was a good reminder to me that I need to be that person to other people. That you don't know the hard time that someone is going through, but there's a pretty good chance if you message an autism parent right now, there's a pretty good chance if you send them a nice message, they probably needed that right then. They don't have to be in a full-on panic to be able to appreciate that message. And I'm just going to ask y'all, if you know a family that's not yours, that they have an autistic child or a child with a disability, out of nowhere, I want you to send them a message. I want you to send them a message of love, a message of support, that you're there, that you see them, that you appreciate the things that they do. And those kind messages goes a long way, you guys. All right. All right. You took your attention elsewhere. That helps a lot in panic. Yeah, Nico, for sure. Knowing my mom loved me and was proud of me made me thrive, and I'm doing well in life with ADHD. Guys, yeah, it doesn't even just have to be an autism parent, but an adult who's autistic. They're going through a lot right now. And you never know when they need a pick-me-up like that of just sharing a loving message with them. Guys, it really does have an impact. All right, keep those questions coming, you guys. We're going to go ahead and continue on these conversations. Pookie, thank you. I appreciate that. Oh, you like my tie? Yes, I wear this one often. I like this one. Now, I don't know what it is. I like space, all right? Again, you're going to call me autistic, and that's okay. That's not an insult. I don't think I qualify, but I do have some special interests, and I do like space. In fact, my company that does ABA services and supports for people with autism is called Nova Supports. And my wife helped me come up with the tagline of Space to Thrive. That space has a double meaning of like creating space for someone to succeed, but also like who doesn't like space? And it's allowed us to have this branding. And so my name, Kylan Heiner, Space to Thrive, I'm kind of stealing that from my own company as my own personal tagline, that I want to give people the space to thrive. And you'll see some other things. Sometimes you'll see an astronaut stuffy thing in behind me, but I have a lot of ties that have space related things out there. Pretty cool stuff. My son didn't get diagnosed until 7th grade. Well done getting them diagnosed. I mean, it's very common. We have a lot of adults just barely getting diagnosed today. I love that. I wish this kind of space for my son as well. I love that. I love it. Sorry to tell you, brother, I'm the same way and have ADHD, so we are similar. Hey, you know what? I wouldn't be surprised if someday I get diagnosed with autism, but the screeners today didn't detect it. So I'm not wasting a psychologist's time, and that's okay. We do say autism is genetic, right? We know that autism is genetic, but that doesn't always mean if you have an autistic child that you are autistic. But it does make you stop. It makes you think about like, I wonder why I sometimes like Pokemon. I wonder why I like space. That's my child's. That's not mine, but I just grabbed that. But anyway, it makes you wonder. If you have a child with autism and you realize that autism is genetic, it makes you wonder about yourself. And that is totally fine. But genetics doesn't always play like that. It does not mean that you or your spouse or a grandparent was autistic. It could be, but genes are so complicated that sometimes you have a gene that can impact the development of the brain and the development of autism, but not show up in you or someone else. That statement was very contradictory. Yes. So that's what I'm trying to explain here is that, and maybe you typed that out before I finished explaining that, but I do want to clarify this, that it is genetic, but that doesn't mean that a parent has to be autistic, because autism isn't a gene. It's polygenic, meaning the way that hundreds of genes interact with each other. And so that can be genetic, and you can have those genes, but you got those genes from a parent, because you can also have some of those genes and not develop autism. And so those genes are just associated with a stronger likelihood of autism. All right, everybody, let's go ahead and continue on some of this conversation here. Go ahead and put any questions in the chat that you have. Brooke83 says, my son has ADHD. I only have ADHD. I worry if he will be able to live on his own. I worry too. That keeps me up at night. I don't know if my son, especially, what his support needs will look like 10 years from now. And what we need to do is prepare as though they're going to need support lifelong. And if they don't, that's great. But we need to prepare for that possibility. They say about 25% of children diagnosed with autism could fall into the category of profound autism. Profound autism meaning that they're over the age of 8 and have an IQ lower than 50 and require 24/7 support with minimal to no communication skills. And so 25% of people will need, of autism, are going to need support. And it's one of those things where you just don't know what support your kid's going to need and how far they're going to go. But what we can focus on, and the moment that it stops consuming every moment of your thought is when you realize the only thing within your control are the inputs that you can give to your child. What do I mean by inputs? I mean the core therapies that benefit autism, like ABA therapy, speech therapy, occupational therapy. And so if you are doing these things, you are giving your child the best chance at them becoming their best version. Our goal as autism parents isn't to create neurotypical kids. You're not going to be able to create a neurotypical kid. Your kid is autistic. What we can do is make sure that they are as happy as they can be, that they can access reinforcement on their own, that they're supported, that they're accepted. What we can do is fight the world and make the world accept our child. All right, you guys, let's bring some friends up here. If you are, let's see, Lexi, if you are Lexi, you can request up. I don't know if you're busy, Lexi, or Destiny or Amy or people that come here often. Feel free to request up. And then I'll start bringing more people up to answer some questions as well. So let's see here. Oh, here's Lexi. Lexi, how are you? We'll see if it loads you in this time. Hey, Lexi. Can you hear us?
Hey, good afternoon. How are you?
Well, I'm pretty good. You out doing fun stuff
Can you hear
today?
me?
Oh, your connection is bad, Lexi. I'm sorry. That's okay. We're going to bring some other people up. Pam, we're going to bring Pam up and see how Pam's doing. Hello, Pam. How are you?
Hi, can you hear me?
I can hear you great. Where are you from, Pam?
I'm from California, Central Valley.
Love it. What can I
My
do for you
granddaughter, who I care for, is autistic. I'm her caregiver.
Oh, my goodness. How old is she?
She is 10 years old. She just turned 10.
Wow.
And, yeah, she's my baby.
Yeah.
She is so much fun.
Yes.
Anyway, yeah.
I love that.
To give you a little background, she got her autism diagnosis a little late.
Yeah.
A lot of denial was going on, but we made it through that.
I'm glad that you got through that.
Yeah,
That's a real thing.
so
Parents, if you're an autism parent and you are wondering if you should get your child diagnosed, you need to move forward with it. The denial, you are not
Absolutely.
protecting your child by pretending like they're not autistic. Get the answers, get them the support. Sorry, go ahead, Pam.
Oh no, not that is something that yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so I got a question,
Of course.
and a statement.
Yeah.
The first question I have is I was reading up on sound therapy. Have you heard anything about that?
Yes. Yes. What have you heard?
I heard that it works. And they have a program out there and stuff. I just want to make sure it's not some weird thing that, they embed into their head or something. I don't know.
Well, sound therapy is not a primary therapy that I recommend for people with autism. Let me go ahead and when you're doing a research into something, and if you just Google something, then very, very biased information is going to come up. That you're going to go onto a
Either way.
website that says, "Oh, this is so evidence-based and the cure. This is the thing to do." Now, one step further is, hey, if you do ChatGPT, they can summarize. But even ChatGPT is a yes man. They tend to say what you want to hear. And I have a tool that is
ChatGPT is trust me, bro.
Yes. I have an AI research tool that actually it only references peer-reviewed research articles and summarizes them in a not super easy way to look at, but easier than actually breaking it down. So let's break down the research of sound therapy as a treatment for autism. And it'll take about 30 seconds or so, but it'll give us a good summary of this and
Yeah,
tell
because
us.
she's in ABA therapy, and I am literally hand in hand with this,
Yeah.
and it's done wonderful things for her.
I love that. Yeah. So typically, the primary therapies that I recommend that have the most body of evidence around them are ABA therapy, occupational therapy, speech therapy, and then if they're conversational and maybe a little older, or if they have high anxiety or depression, mental health therapy can be good. And so those are really the four that are worth the most amount of time. A lot of the sound therapy, did they say if insurance was going to pay for it?
Um, the cost of it was very minimal. So I was just going to go ahead and pay for it.
Yeah, let's see. Based on the provided references, sound-based therapy, and I've never read this before. This is a neutral source, and I have no idea what's about to come out of my mouth, okay? Sound-based therapies for autism constitute a heterogeneous field. Oh, hold on. Okay. The most robust appearing evidence at present supports music-based interventions as a potentially beneficial adjunct for social communication and engagement, albeit with modest effect sizes and methodological caveats. Auditory integration training and similarly framed auditory therapies lack consistent, high-quality evidence of efficacy and are not recommended as standalone core treatments. Auditory, motor, and multisensory approaches offer promising avenues but require rigorous randomized trials. Okay, so at this point, it sounds like, were they trying to do, does it sound like auditory integration training, or was it like using music to help calm them down?
It was more. It wasn't music. It was like a background noise for her bedroom or
that
for
has not
my.
consistently been shown to improve people with autism. Now, the problem comes is you're going to see people are going to say, "Hey, it worked for my kid," and you're going to see testimonials. Testimonials. If people use testimonials, that is the hallmark of a pseudoscience. Okay.
Yeah.
That is a hallmark
Or
of
a
they're trying to
trust me
sell
bro,
you.
yeah.
Yes. If they say, "Oh, it worked with my kid," or look on our website, you can see 10 families this helped. But then I just broke down the research, and there's not strong evidence to do this. And especially like if you're paying out of pocket, not doing that. So
Yeah. Which, I'm glad I asked you, because I asked my granddaughter's therapist if she had heard anything. And not the one that actually works with her, because I know that's somebody that's working on behalf of someone else.
yeah.
Her actual therapist, who comes in at least 3 times a week for at least an hour to sit in on our sessions and so on and so forth.
Yes.
Because I'm literally there for every session.
Yeah. I look, you're doing great, and you're doing the right things. And sometimes us autism parents, and you're right there, is we feel like we're not doing enough, and we're always looking for the next thing that we can add on. And let me tell you, Pam, is I believe that the best thing that you need right now is not another therapy for your child, but you need to focus on yourself. I'm just gonna put this out there. When was the last time you went and did something just for you?
Can't tell you. I half the time don't even brush my hair.
Pam, don't be thinking of this sound therapy stuff right now. What you need to be thinking of is, how do you get away from the house for an hour? How do you go and get your hair done somewhere? How do you go and go to a movie by yourself? And just, I don't know what you like to do, but I need you to focus on you. And that's going to refill your capacity to be there for your child. That's my recommendation for the next thing you need to incorporate into your child's life and support.
Because my daughter does that, but yeah, I literally.
You need that, Pam.
You're right. I really should take better care of myself, because me and my daughter, we're doing this together, and the rest of the family, they really don't understand, and they don't take the time to understand, and they're like saying, "Oh, you need to beat her butt," and I'm like, no. That's not going to do anything.
No, it's not. It's not. And the progress is slow. And yeah, we can't fix everything overnight. This is a lifelong thing that you need to be there for, and you're not going to be there if you're not taking care of yourself. So look, Pam, do you promise you're going to do something today for
Yes, I
yourself or
promise.
this
I
week?
promise.
This week, you promise you'll do something for you? Okay.
Yes.
All right. You take care, Pam. Thank you so much for coming up. I'm going to
Okay.
go ahead and move on.
Oh, and don't
Yeah.
knock ABA. You have to look and see what the therapy and the whole curriculum does, because I am able to be with each and every session.
Thank you.
And
I'll speak on that a little more, Pam. I really appreciate you for coming up, because Pam's right that ABA therapy in some circles gets a bad name, and one of the biggest reasons is just some of the harm that it has done historically, which it did. It overstepped. ABA definitely can change behavior, but the question is, should it? And I mean, I do ABA therapy for a living. I'm a BCBA, and I can tell you already that ABA overstepped a lot. It caused PTSD in the life of autistic adults, and so there's a reason why right now there are autistic adults worrying about what ABA therapy looks like for children. But I got to tell you, ABA as a field has gone a long way. And if they're addressing skills and not addressing masking or making your kid pretend like they're not autistic like it used to, it's doing some helpful things. It's impressive. Okay, does MMR vaccine cause autism? No, it doesn't. MMR vaccine does not cause autism. There is no correlation between vaccines and autism. I know that's going to be controversial to hear, but there's no correlation between vaccines and autism. Jesse says ABA today is not what ABA used to be. That's spot on. Over on the YT platform, I do try to read more of that more often. Let's see. What if you have two people with autism and they exhibit similar symptoms, but the reasons behind the symptoms are completely different? How do you go about understanding how to handle that? Celeste, wow, you know what you just described? Okay, so imagine we have two people and they're both flapping their hands, but one of those occurs in one circumstance and the other one engages in that behavior for totally different reasons. It sounds like it would be impossible to address those behaviors, right? That is exactly what ABA excels at. That is the perfect example. That it doesn't just look at the topography of the behavior or what the behavior looks like. It tries to get underneath the behavior and says, what is this behavior? What is making it so that this behavior occurs? What are the factors going on that may be impacting this? Is this something where they're not getting enough attention and they engage in this behavior and they get some attention? Or, what are the underlying causes? And then you're able to address those behaviors. MetBet says ABA doesn't understand many of the things that impact this. I think a collaborative approach is great. Hey, Rebecca, fellow BCBA here. I love that. Thank you for being here. Yeah, the root causes essentially. Yeah. And I'm not saying, look, ABA doesn't do a great job at understanding anxiety and depression and how mental health impacts it. ABA is great at identifying that something is a sensory need, but occupational therapists are far better at identifying how to adequately meet their sensory needs. ABA can identify that we need to work on communication for something, but a speech therapist is far better at creating a plan and a situation and assessments around language to help that develop. And so it's this collaborative approach that you really want. If you are looking for the best outcomes for your child, I would never have a professional work with my child who does not appreciate one of these other therapies. If you go to a speech therapist and they say, oh, we hate ABA, do not let ABA work on communication with your child. They don't know what they're doing. Only we do that. That is a red flag. Don't go to a behavior analyst that says occupational therapy is pseudoscience. They don't know what they're doing. They don't even look at the function of the behavior. I wouldn't go to that ABA therapist. We need to go to people who are able to respect other professions and see what they bring to the table and work together at finding the best outcomes for your child. Please keep that in mind. How can I do all three therapies if they want me to do 40 hours of ABA? You don't have to do all three therapies, but it's an option and it's something you should look into. Instead of just saying, hey, I need 40 hours of ABA, you should say, hey, what does my child actually need? Occupational therapy is amazing when your child needs support with sensory needs and with feeding. Occupational therapists quite often are experts in feeding therapy. And there's overlap with ABA as well. They can work on some skill development and things like that. Speech therapists. Yeah, if your child doesn't communicate well, speech therapy combined with ABA is great. Now, how do you do it? If an ABA company says you have to do 40 hours and we don't allow any room for other therapies to go on, they're not looking out for the best interest of your child. In my company, we do ABA therapy, and if someone wants a speech therapist or occupational therapist to come in at a regularly scheduled time, we make that work. In our own clinics, we want people to come in. We want them to get those other therapies where they're also getting our therapy. Like, this collaboration is a good thing, and that is a red flag if an ABA company is not willing to be collaborative about allowing other therapies to occur. Oh, Lexi, I see ya.
Can you hear me better now?
Oh, I can hear ya. I can hear ya. How are ya?
Good. How are you?
I'm pretty good. I'm pretty good. Were you out doing something fun? You were out where service wasn't good.
No. I had to take my son to ABA therapy. I was in the middle of getting him from me to the
Oh
therapist
yeah.
and stuff like that. So I was
No, it's
like,
all good.
oh, for some reason the service in there was not that good.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes
We
sense.
need to go back to our regularly scheduled time.
I know. I'm sorry, you guys. I had a meeting that went for 3.5 hours this morning, and I got on as soon as I could. But it's a monthly meeting, so once a month I have this, and it does interfere with this when that happens. Everybody, when I do go live on a daily basis, but that live usually happens at noon Eastern time until 2 p.m. And so usually a 2-hour live. And so today I'm a couple hours after that. And so I apologize, everybody. Well, Lexi, should we bring some more people up and answer some more questions?
Let's do it.
All right. All right. Let's see what we can do here. We'll see if people load in. I know I took a long time to get back to people. Some people were sitting in there for a while, so maybe they aren't on the app anymore, and that is A-okay. Let's see if Catherine loads in. Well, hiya, Catherine. Where are you from? Catherine, can you hear us? All right. Looks like she loaded in, but wasn't quite sure that she was on. That's okay. Let's see if Dovanis can load in. Dovanis, hello. How are you? Where are you from?
Oh, hello. From London, yeah.
Oh, wonderful. From London. Do you have a question for us today?
I just wanted to know, what's it called? If you could tell me more about your work, because I was recently diagnosed, what's it called, last month, and when I found this channel, I just thought you was a parent of was it three on Monday? Was it 3 children you have, or 2? Sorry.
Was what? Say that again.
Was it, was it 3 children you have in total, or 2?
I have 4 kids total, 2 of which are diagnosed with autism.
Ah, and the third one showing some signs, you said, potentially.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah, okay. So I just wanted to. Oh yeah. So I was saying, I only found out last week that you are on the board, on this board, and just wanted to know more about the type of work behind it, and if it was available in UK, this type of thing that I'm hearing for
that's
the
a good
first time,
question.
and yeah,
Yeah,
just
so ABA therapy
yeah.
is applied behavior analysis, and the clinicians that implement ABA are called board certified behavior analysts. So that's what I am, and it is they do it worldwide, but it is way more common in the United States. In the UK, it is not commonly paid for. It is like only available to
Ah.
those who pay extra. But I will say it's mostly for people with higher support needs. Is what insurance like to
Okay,
do.
I
So this is
see.
like a kid who can't communicate or is hitting their peer, and then they go to this therapy. For adults or people who have fewer support needs, mental health therapy is a really good place to start. Did you say you just got diagnosed with autism?
Yeah,
Very cool.
finally for last month, yeah.
Oh,
Level
wonderful.
one, level one.
Awesome. And how do you feel now that you have the diagnosis? Was that a shock to you? Was it a relief? Did it validate how you've been feeling?
Yeah, sorry. Am I pronouncing your name
Kylan.
Kylan?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it was. I would say all four of those relief, shock, and some what's it called? Sorry, relief,
Validation.
shock,
Yeah.
fear, and and some calmness. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
calmness. Yeah. So all four of these things, and I did hear about ABA. I did used to hear about it. Before, maybe in school it was being mentioned many years ago, but I never. I will be able to do my own research on this, but
Yeah, you can look it up. It's
I,
especially impactful to those who have a lot of skills that
mm,
they need to develop, and you may learn
yeah,
some
I
stuff.
see.
Especially, they do touch on a lot of like self-management things and how to like manage your own behavior. If you're noticing that you're doing things that you want to change, how do you go about doing that, and what are some good
Hmm.
strategies? So that can be good. But again, mental health therapy is probably your best friend here. Do you have any advice? I'll just leave you with this because I do try to move on to a
Oh,
lot of people.
okay.
I'm curious if you don't mind sharing. What advice do you have to people that are similar places you, but they don't have a diagnosis yet? What recommendations would you give them?
Oh, very good. I would say I do. I would say I do not like like mentioned on Monday in your live stream. I do not like when people say a bit of nowadays young people say what's it called? You have a little bit of
A
this
bit of
autism
a bit of
thing.
the tism.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
do think that should be cut out. But advice I would give to those who yet to be yet to be diagnosed is good question. I would say this. Just think about your life experiences so far to this day, and maybe try in your head to see if it would be if those life experiences are happening for a while, and from there you can do some work maybe.
That's
But
actually
yeah.
a really good point. And thank you again for coming up. I'm going to talk on that a little bit, but I'm going to disconnect you. Thank you so much for coming
Okay.
up.
Yeah. No problem.
He mentioned like look back at your life and how you've been for a long time. Part of the diagnostic criteria for autism is that you have to have had these symptoms since birth or since shortly after. This isn't something that like I hit my head and then this happened, or I got the flu shot last year and now I'm like this. That doesn't that's not able to get an autism diagnosis. All right, let's go ahead and continuing answering some questions. I'll answer some in the chat here. Let's see if there's any on the YT platform. Um, okay, Sam Bank et al. 2019. I'm not sure, Urban Frugal Chick, what that reference is, but thank you for sharing a reference there. You can give some more context. I'm happy to talk about it. How can you tell the difference between just a speech delay and autism? Okay, let me do this in the chat. If you're autistic, or if specifically if you have a child who's autistic, what were the first signs you saw of autism? Because sometimes a speech delay is one of the first signs, but autism is a lot more broad than a speech delay. So simply being delayed in your speech does not make you eligible for an autism diagnosis. Autism occurs in a few different categories. So my child, one of their first signs was not responding to their name. So that's not so much of a speech delay, but they can hear just fine. But when I say their name, they don't look at me. When I point at something, they don't look where I point. They don't point. They start stimming. I see people commenting about stimming. That can be common. And so I guess my answer to this is that a speech delay can be, and it is autism. If there is a speech delay, though, I do recommend, especially with a toddler or a young child, that you do the M-chat. It's linked to my bio, and you're able to see what the likelihood is or how high risk your child is for autism based on your score.
I have something to say on that too,
Please.
Kylan.
Yeah.
So before my child was diagnosed with autism, he did have a speech delay. It was one of the reasons why he was going to preschool, and
Yeah.
his preschool teacher actually recommended me to get him tested for delays because that's something that was covered through the preschool because they went through the public school system and stuff like that. Um, After we got that response back that he did have a speech delay, a developmental delay, and a fine motor delay, was actually when we started noticing other traits of something else. They didn't say autism because teachers legally cannot diagnose autism.
Yeah.
But I did take him to his pediatricians and requested him to get tested for autism because I started researching it all on my own. So for that question specifically, I would say if your child has a speech delay, doesn't show any other signs, if your child is at that age base where they can get a diagnosis for it's fine motor, speech delay, developmental delay, and gross motor delay.
Yeah.
Those four items are what's targeted in the public school system. So if your child has the option to get those are completely free to you if you're going through the public school system. And they can do those tests before they go into school, or if they're already in school, they can do those tests, and that will give you kind of like an insider look of like, well, yeah, these things are delayed, but there's more to it.
Yes.
So I would definitely use all of your resources that you have around in your area. Make sure that you use those resources available to you for free via your public school system here in the United States, and get them tested. If you still see a lot going on, such as stimming and other things that are associated with autism, and you want to go for that evaluation, then I would strongly suggest that afterwards because it could just be a speech delay and
Yeah.
they'll need speech therapy and they get that for free at school. So you don't have to worry about insurance and stuff like that.
Well, the early intervention stuff too. If they're really young, they can be getting early intervention services even before an autism diagnosis, and a speech delay is qualifying for that. So, you might first get a diagnosis, of a speech delay. I'm seeing some other questions come in here. The first one, let's see, is leucovorin and Rose. It looks like you guys are going to be starting leucovorin. My thoughts, real briefly, on leucovorin is that it is not widespread recommended yet for people with autism. It is still in the theory phase. It is in the testing phase of trying to get some strong results indicating progress. They did have 5 randomized clinical trials, one of which was retracted because of some errors in their data. And so, it's been somewhat mixed. And so it's not quite as exciting as people are saying it is yet. I'm excited for it. I'm optimistic for it. I'm not having my kids go through it because there's also potential of increase in agitation and increase in anxiety with it. But I'm optimistic as more research comes out on it. It's a good thing. We got 50K. Not Rose. Sarah, thank you so much for the confetti, and thank you for pointing out we got 50K likes. That's great. Thank you so much. Princess says, this has been very helpful. I'm glad you had a later live than usual. I was able to pop in. Yeah, sometimes I think we get new people when we go live, you guys, at a different time. Leucovorin helped with my son 100%. It's not a crazy advance, but helped a bit for sure. Ray Stone, I'm so glad that you saw progress in your child. And what's hard is, I hear a lot of parents say that it helped. And I don't doubt that your child progressed. What I do think we have a hard time doing as humans is identifying what is the thing that made the difference. I think we have a really hard time with that because you're probably doing therapies. Your child is getting older and maturing and the brain is growing. And we don't know what would have happened if they weren't on that medication or if, they did take the medication. We can't compare that. And so what we're like, I'm not mad at any parents for trying things. And what I am saying is that there's a reason that we need randomized clinical trials. And it's because us as parents, we are terrible at accurately describing why something happened in our child. And these randomized clinical trials where some people get leucovorin and other people think they get leucovorin, and then we compare and see what actual outcomes happen in each group. It's able to demonstrate that, hey, look, like statistically, this does help most people.
I see a good question.
Yeah.
It says, should I cut out gluten as I have researched it and it can be a yeast infection? He is not diagnosed yet.
Yeah, good question. Look, your child's not diagnosed yet. Hopefully, if you feel like there's autism, hopefully you've done a screener. If not, there's one link to my bio that you can do. But you first do a screener, then you call to get an evaluation done, get on some wait lists. Don't wait around. Make sure that you're getting evaluations everywhere. But your question is, like you're right now, you're trying to do what is within my control. How can I help? I'm willing to do anything. And let me just tell you that there is no diet that is widely recommended simply because your child's autistic. That is not true. There are times that someone has like a very real measurable gluten intolerance or a dairy intolerance. But there's this theory that goes around, and it takes a lot of leaps. What it says is that kids with autism tend to have a leaky gut. Therefore, toxins can get out of the gut, and dairy-free and gluten-free can prevent that from happening, and then you can detox and remove those toxins. And I could go step by step and explain at each level why it's a leap and why there's not evidence supporting it. But it's one of those things where, parents do it and then they see improvement and then they tell other people. But it's one of those things that we are really bad at detecting ourselves what helped and what didn't. What we do know is that when it's put to the test, it's not been shown to address autism symptoms. What I will say, though, is that autistic kids do tend to have more GI issues, more stomach problems. A lot of people theorize they have more stomach problems because of their rigid eating. I don't know if your kids have only a few things that they'll eat, but when that happens and they don't eat a variety of foods, then it can cause stomach problems. And any dietitian in the world, if your child will only eat a handful of foods and they're strict on what they eat, and you say, hey, now you have to do gluten-free and dairy-free, these dietitians wouldn't recommend that, because what they would recommend is expand the variety, increase the variety, increase more vegetables, more fruits, more fiber, more things, more variety, not restrict food, because restricting it will even more narrow impact your child's ability to build their gut microbiome. And so dietitians typically recommend a wide variety of foods, increase fiber, and talk to your pediatrician about addressing constipation or other gut-related issues. But no, you don't need to go gluten-free or dairy-free simply because your child's autistic. There's a lot of like nutrition stuff, and like what bothers me is when parents like hold their autistic child to a like higher degree of diet than any of the other kids and even themselves. Like that is unnecessary unless a child has like a very specific documented medical condition like celiac disease. Then yeah, we can't do gluten, unfortunately. That would be very bad. I agree. Rigid eating is a problem. Eating chicken nuggets every day isn't great. Yes, but that is better than saying no gluten, so cut those chicken nuggets out. Did you know most chicken nuggets have gluten? You have to buy special gluten-free ones that a lot of kids with autism aren't even going to eat. And so, like, the whole idea here is if you're only eating one or two things, let's keep those and let's just work from there and expand. All right, you guys, I have a doctor's appointment that I got to go to, and so I'm going to be hopping off for the day, but I do want to share just a couple last-minute things here. I go live every day. We talk about autism. We get real here. I appreciate this village so much. You guys are incredible. We have a Discord chat. I did update in the chat today in the Discord chat that I was going to be on later, so people knew. So feel free to join that if you want updates. We also have a Facebook group. Sometimes we share pictures and photos and introduce ourselves on the Facebook group. It's linked in the bio. And then just make sure that you follow, because I go live every day, and I want to make sure that I see you again. And by the way, if you're just finding me today, hate to break it to you, but you're part of this village now. You're stuck with us. We're positive vibes only. We keep things positive. You can disagree with me. I'm okay with that, but we're polite to each other. And if you disagree with something, you better send me an article to back it up. That's all I'll say. But I love giving good advice to parents. I love being there for each other. And y'all are amazing. So I'm going to go ahead and log off for the day, but I'll talk to you guys later.
Bye. See you tomorrow.